Boo! Did I scare you? This episode is not for the arachnophobes. Voice, introduce us to Theraphosa blondi. Bring in the Theraphosa blondi, otherwise known as the Goliath Birdeater. This is the largest species of tarantula by mass and body length, and today we'll be exploring this wondrous creature's life. Now let's dive in. Let's get the obvious question out of the way. Where can one find one of these? Apart from the homes of exotic pet owners all across the United States, where in the wild can I spot a Theraphosa blondi? Voice? Dude, you gotta stop summoning me like an arterial strike, alright? These guys are native to the upland rainforest regions of northern South America, specifically Suriname, Guyana, French Guiana, northern Brazil, eastern Colombia, and southern Venezuela. And yes, I tried to pronounce them as correctly as possible. It really is always some freaking nature in the Amazonian rainforest. Or Australia. I mean hell. Sorry, I don't mean to misidentify that place. Anyways, before we continue further, let me drop this bomb on you real quick. Tarantulas aren't real spiders. I'm gonna get into a little more detail about that. They're not technically not spiders. They're just not true spiders. See, when I ask you what a spider is, you always think of a web in the corner of your room and a little thing just using its silk to come down and terrorize you, right? You think about running out of the room and possibly burning your house down, if you're an arachnophobe, of course. Now, those are known as Araneomorphiae. They build complex webs, live really short lives between 1 to 3 years, and have fangs that pinch inwards, and only one book long. Our tarantulas don't do any of that. You've never seen a tarantula at the top of a window coming down slowly. That doesn't happen. Do you know why? Because they belong to a primitive arachnid infraorder known as Megalomorphiae. And Megalomorphiae have 2 book lungs, fangs that strike downwards like a snake, and they don't make complex webbing at all. They oftentimes live in burrows and use their silk to kind of line their burrows, really. And the craziest part? They can live decades. We're talking about there is literally a tarantula out there that's gonna outlive you, buddy. Yeah, there's one that's going to absolutely outlive you. One that was born today, probably. Now anyways, with that biology lesson out of the way, and with that more understanding on how arachnids work, even though they're a very complicated topic, right? Let's move on to some key characteristics of our specific species, the true Goliath Birdeater, Theraphosa blondi. Holy biology yap session. Anyways, like all tarantulas, this species' body plan consists of a fused head and thorax known as a cephalothorax and an abdomen, along with 8 legs, of course. Now, this species is specifically known for their brown and or black coloration and a body that is covered in hair-like bristles known as urticating hairs. We'll talk about the significance of these hairs later on in the video. Now, oftentimes in tarantula society and spider society in general, the females dwarf their male counterparts. And you're about to see that in our size segment over here. Let's begin with body length. This is oftentimes seen as the measurement from the tip of the tarantula's head to the end of its thorax. And these guys aren't the biggest for no reason. Female Goliath bird-eaters can measure up to 5 inches in length. And to put this in perspective, ball up your fist, put it next to you, and that's pretty much the size of its body. And that's just the body. We're not even talking about legs yet. Males, however, are very underwhelming. I mean, they can be 2 to 4 centimeters or 0.8 to 1.6 inches. I mean, in comparison to their 5-inch female counterparts, these guys are tiny. Now let's move on to leg length. And just to preface, their leg length isn't measured the way you'd measure my arm. Their leg length is kind of measured the way that you would measure my wingspan. From the tip of one foot fully extended to the tip of the opposite foot fully extended. And this length is redonkulous. The females of this species can have legs that are up to 30 centimeters long. That's 12 inches in American, and this is only bested by the giant huntsman spider that lives in hell, aka the land down under, aka Australia. Now as for males, once again, they're incredibly underwhelming, coming in at 15 to 20 centimeters when it comes to leg length, and for all the bald eaglers out there, that's about 6 to 8 inches. And for the final course on our size segment, let's talk about their weight. And may I remind you, these guys are the heaviest for a very good reason. They are incredibly heavy. I'm kind of bored, so we're gonna do this like a WWE wrestling announcement. And in the left corner, we have the female Goliath Birdeater coming in at a whopping 170 pounds. These guys weigh the same as a pocket billiard. And in the right corner, we have the male Goliath Birdeater coming in at a pipsqueak 100 grams or less. When I said these guys were smaller, I meant smaller, dude. As was demonstrated by voice, the males are slimmer, smaller, and lighter than their female counterparts. And this female supremacy doesn't stop here. It's gonna shock you when it comes to lifespan. Yeah, I don't think it ever starts looking good for the males of this species. Anyways, females of this species can oftentimes live 2 decades or more. Meanwhile, their male counterparts only live between 3 and 6 years. Bummer. Now you must be asking, why does the Baconator exist? Why does Wendy's sell chicken sandwiches? We really may never know. But something we do know is why the female Goliath Birdeaters live for much longer. This can mainly be attributed to the fact that female Goliath Birdeaters will just continuously molt their whole lives. They don't stop once they reach sexual maturity like the males, they just keep molting. This allows for them to repair their exoskeleton, internal organs, and any damage caused by wear and tear over the years. And this causes them to live so much significantly longer that it genuinely trivializes the lives of the males. Now, some people in our lives are chuds. They sit on their couches and don't do anything. That's not really the lifestyle of our beautiful, beautiful Goliath Birdeater. Now, although I wouldn't call these guys lazy fat chuds, they're not the most active either. See, these guys are extremely elusive and primarily nocturnal, living in incredibly deep burrows in marshy and swampy areas, and only coming out to hunt and drag their prey back into their deep, dark lair. Did anyone read this script? This is giving Jeffrey Dahmer. Did anyone read this before handing it to me? Now, despite their name, these guys do not eat birds. This misconception happened in the late 17th century when entomologist Maria Cibalas Merian made a copper engraving of what looked like a Goliath Birdeater eating a hummingbird during her expedition to South America between 1699 and 1701. It was later found that that's not even possible, as these guys are terrestrial and don't ever go up to the trees, really. So, although the name is really badass and they have the physical powers to eat small birds like hummingbirds, it doesn't happen because hummingbirds are in the sky and these guys are on the ground. Now, beyond this misconception, I'm gonna let voice tell you what they actually eat. Take it away, bud. These guys are primarily terrestrial and really mostly feed on earthworms, large insects, frogs, and toads. They're opportunistic hunters though, and so they have been observed to eat small mammals like bats, rodents, and reptiles like snakes and lizards, and even birds if they get too close to their burrow, though this is rare. Now, I'm pretty sure at this point of the video, I've mentioned the word burrow 1,000,001 times, and it doesn't really take a genius to, piece together the fact that if they live in their burrow, then they must hunt by their burrow or in their burrow. Let's talk about their hunting habits. Now, before I talk about these burrows, these guys do not spin silk webs to catch their prey like black widows or orb weavers. They also don't chase down their prey like wolf spiders. Actually, Goliath Birdeaters are practically blind, even with 8 eyes. So instead, they simply just sit and wait. They'll sit near the entrance or underneath the entrance of their burrow and just camouflage to the forest floor, relying on sensitive leg hairs to detect vibrations of incoming prey. Once the meal is within striking range, they'll sink their incredibly powerful fangs and pump their prey full of a potent neurotoxin, paralyzing and liquefying the internal organs of the victim before oftentimes dragging it back to its burrow and sucking the liquefied content using those same fangs. The same way that a kid drinks a Capri Sun. It's brutal, dude. Just a quick public service announcement here. Their neurotoxin is essentially useless and medically insignificant to humans. Now, there are there are tarantulas out there with incredibly medically significant venom, okay? I mean, if they bite you, you might be cooked. But not these guys. Matter of fact, their bite is comparable to a wasp. Not pleasant at all, and definitely being pierced by 4 centimeter fangs does not feel good. But you probably won't die, unless you're severely allergic. Now, beyond that, these guys usually go for dry bites. You know, a bite without any venom induced into the body, especially for bigger predators. But apart from dry bites, let's talk about how they defend themselves. Now, apart from these dry bites, when threatened, these guys will hiss. Yes, I said hiss. And this is not no bark without no bite. This hissing is oftentimes followed by a threat display, where the spider rears up and shows off its 4 centimeter fangs. Now, if for some reason the predator is much less wise than your average garbage bag, and continues to try to attack this tarantula, the Goliath Birdeater will then turn around and fling urticating hairs off its abdomen into the skin and eyes of the potential predator. Now, these hairs are barbed, and they will irritate the skin and eyes on this said predator. Yikes. Now, apart from really stupid humans who just want to touch everything, what really poses a threat to these guys? And let's stick to the adults, as babies can get eaten pretty much by anything. So, voice, take it away. Now, as we mentioned earlier, at adulthood, these guys are humongous. So, of course, the only thing spiteful, hateful, and possibly stupid enough to predate on these guys are Pepsis wasps, otherwise known as the tarantula hawk wasps. A possible episode coming soon about these guys. I guess being in your own weight class of tarantula really does pay off in certain situations. I mean, apart from, you know, the evil devil incarnate known as Pepsis wasps, these guys really don't get bothered by much. At least when they're adults. They probably get eaten by almost anything as babies. Nonetheless, remember how we spoke about female supremacy in this species? It doesn't change in reproduction. Voice, tell us more about the reproduction. Now, the reproductive habits are actually pretty complicated, and it includes a lot of intricate details that I'm not going to go into, so let me dumb it down. Usually in other tarantula species, the females will eat the males during mating. Not in this species, though. Females view the males of this species purely for breeding and not as food sources at all. Now, let's dive into the details of their courtship. Now, usually before a male introduces himself or, says hello to the female, he'll build himself a sperm web. I know, a little forward in my opinion. And then afterwards, he'll go up to the female's burrow and attempt to court her. This usually involves a variety of visual and postural displays, along with rhythmic tapping, as these guys are blind and only respond to sensitive vibrations. Once the female accepts the male, he then quickly deposits his sperm web into the female's epigina, that's her sexual organ, using his pedipalps, and then he scurries away as quickly as possible before it gets violent up in there. Once mated, the female will then lay an egg sac containing roughly 100 to 200 eggs, which will hatch into spiderlings in 6 to 8 weeks. And that's all we got, folks.